My name is Natalya Dell. I'm a 37-year-old person living in Birmingham. The nature of my complaint is about accessible communication within the hospital and trying to arrange what would be in legal terms called reasonable adjustments for disability, but making the appointment accessible to me. So my problem started at the beginning of May. I was sent a letter from Birmingham and Midland Eye Centre, get the acronym right, BMEC, and it had no contact details for the hospital on it at all, not even a telephone number. I had to Google the hospital and find the hospital website. The website wasn't easy to navigate, but I did find the web form. So I filled in the web form, but I never received a reply to whatever I sent to that. So I thought, okay, the web form's not working. So I phoned up. And I'm deaf and I don't use the telephone for voice. So I'm using what is called next generation text relay, previously called text relay or type talk, which some people know. And if you see Minicom numbers written on things, that's direct telephone services for deaf people. But the way relay works is you have an operator and I type and I read what I want to say. And the operator speaks what I've typed and then types what is spoken back. So the operator is literally just relaying, a bit like an interpreter. And it's a bit slow and it's very stilted, and each person has to take their turn saying go ahead or over. And of course, I don't have any information about the call, so I don't know who I'm speaking to unless they tell me. I don't know if I'm talking to a man or a woman. I don't know if I'm talking to the same person. I don't even know if I'm in the same organisation. And when dealing with certainly NHS entities, I also have issues with its reliability. It's very slow, and the operators are allowed to get involved in calls in a way that I'm not happy with. So on the 8th of May, I made a number of phone calls and I was told I had to speak to my consultant secretary who wasn't available that day. So I said, can I have an email address? And they said, oh, well, we don't have email addresses. And I said, well, you have to. You know, the Accessible Information Standard says you have to be able to communicate with people in a multitude of ways. Somebody went away, found me the email address and got back to me, which I appreciated because they're admin staff, they can only do what the rules allow them to do. So I got this email address and I said, it's really, really important that I get a reply to this email. 15th of May, I hadn't heard back. And given that I'd stressed, and 5 working days is usually long enough to get a response from an email, and I was thinking my appointment's on the 26th of May, they're running out of time to organise what I'm asking for, this is a problem. So again, I phoned on the 15th of May, and again, the secretary wasn't available, so I'm playing phone tag, which is really stressful. And I spoke to some other secretaries who did their best to help. I've got no complaints with the customer service and the people trying to help. They didn't have the training. And so when I explained I was asking for reasonable adjustments for appointment, they didn't know what I meant. So, time was running short. I didn't need an interpreter. I needed a room on my own for any consultations. I needed staff to be deaf aware. And because of the problems I'm having with my vision, which is why I'm at BMEC at all, I can't be left in a waiting room if the lights can't be turned off because I'm sensitive to flicker and I get really nasty headaches from it and I can't function. And it's bad enough that if the lighting's a problem, I have to be out of the place within 2 or 3 minutes. I don't have any tolerance. So trying to get people to understand that, because that's a peculiar request. So I bounced around various people on the 15th, and I must have made 4 phone calls, and I was so stressed. And I just thought, I don't need to be this stressed. I'm entitled not to be this stressed. This isn't good enough. Good practice is that you have people, a sort of central department who knows what they're talking about, so that they can say, oh yeah, sure, we'll make sure that happened. And eventually I phoned PALS and I said, I'm dumping this on you and I'm going to make a complaint, can I have an email address? And PALS eventually said, yes, we've sorted it. They said that they'll meet you at reception and they'll take you to a separate room and they won't leave you in the waiting room, and they know that you're deaf and they've passed on your deaf leaflet to them. I'd done a deaf info sheet about my specific needs. But it's a bigger picture. There was no contact details on the letter. The web form wasn't answered. I got bounced around playing phone tag. The email wasn't responded to. I'd been very clear. The email was as a reasonable adjustment for disability. And I know the NHS has governance challenges around email and security, but there are advice and guidance documents out there that very clearly outline how you can do it. Relying on individual people is really not recommended, because I don't know that Joe Bloggs is a genuine NHS employee, whereas, access at bmec.nhsnet or whatever is an inbox address. It's more authentic, and it means that you can have a group of people responsible for it, and hopefully people have had the training. So it's an underlying training issue, I think, of not thinking about how are people accessing this service.